following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everyone, welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz here. Dan Rylance, our usual co-host, can't be with us tonight, but I know he's watching at home, so he will be here at the next show telephonically. So anyway, we're very pleased this evening to welcome Matt Madsen. Matt is an AmeriCorps worker, and he is working with the County Health Department on the CHIP program. You may recall, if you're a regular watcher of the show, that we had on Jeff Phillips from the County Health Department, I want to say probably about 6 or 7 months ago, talking about the, I got to get the name right here, it is the Community Health Improvement Plan. It's a county-wide initiative that has been in the works for a while, and Jeff was talking about it. There have been some recent changes, and those changes involve the Rethink program, taking it over for the county health department. And Matt, like I said, is with AmeriCorps. He's working on this along with several other folks, and he's been kind enough to come in tonight to talk to us about where things are at and what America is doing involved in this and so forth. So anyway, thank you much for being here. We appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you, Cheryl.
So, you know, I think a lot of people probably have heard about this, but there may be a lot who haven't. So why don't we start there? Why don't we talk about what the CHIP program really is? Kind of give us a little history of it, if you will.
That sounds good. Let's go back to the beginning. So CHIP, or the Community Health Improvement Plan, started back in about March of 2009. And it started with the Winnebago County Health Department and the Oshkosh Health Services Division coming together and agreeing to do a health assessment in Winnebago County and the Oshkosh area. And after that health assessment was complete, they decided to go out into the community and bring together about 30 members of the community from different organizations, different businesses, from private and public, because it's the Community Health Improvement Plan. So they wanted to make sure that the community was there. And what they did is they brought these people together and sat down over like a 6 to 9 month period and had them lay out on the table what they saw areas of improvement for in Winnebago County. Okay. So once that initial kind of assessment and planning phase was over, they had brought together what they thought were the most important areas to focus on in the county, and then began the development of 4 different work groups. Those 4 work groups specifically are physical activity, nutrition, obesity, diabetes, healthy lifestyles, and healthy recreational opportunities.
Okay. So
once the 4 work groups were started, the planning committee kind of dissolved, and some members from the original planning team and then many new members from throughout the community were brought together to run these 4 different work groups. And from that, then we've been moving forward now, kind of developing action plans as to how to move forward, because the The Community Health Improvement Plan is actually a 5-year plan. So it extends from March of 2009 until March of 2014. So we don't want to get we want to get started, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, but we want to have a nice plan laid out so that it can cover the 5 years and make sure that we're doing the things that when we originally set it up that we're doing.
Okay. Well, so let's talk about the time frame. It's a 5-year plan. We're now, we're in mid-February right now as we tape this.
Yep.
But we're almost then at that 2-year point. Would you say that it's progressing on schedule?
Yep. I would say, and actually I apologize, I have to go back. It was,
okay, go
so
ahead.
The planning started in 2009. The CHIP Community Health Improvement Plan was drafted in 2010.
Okay.
So it's actually till 2015. I
Okay.
apologize.
No problem.
Yeah, so we're just about to 1 year
Okay.
with
all right.
that. And we are moving along as planned. We, like I said, we're in the process of developing action plans in each of the 4 work groups, hoping to complete those here in the next month or two to really lay that framework out and then start moving forward.
Okay.
And so
all right.
we definitely have been working on some things along with the action plan. So there has been some stuff that has actually been completed out in the community already.
Okay. Like what? I mean, give us kind of a status update on what's been completed and how this is, because I think, I mean, I've had, as we mentioned at the outset, Jeff was on the show already. I've heard talks on this in other places. I've looked at the website. But I think people, and I know even for myself, I'm still a little confused as to how it really works,
Yep.
what its real mission is, if you will. I mean, obviously the overall mission is to make us a healthier community, a healthier county.
Yep.
But the nuts and bolts of it, and
Yeah.
I don't mean real specific nuts and bolts, but just the overall workings of it, how does it manifest itself into making us healthier?
Okay. Well, let's start by, so the health departments, the Winnebago County and the Oshkosh Health Services Division are kind of the original driving force behind it.
Right.
But they don't want it to be them, it's community-wide. So what we did with the work groups then is we brought in people from all over. We have a bunch of different businesses represented, community organizations like I was saying earlier. And so it's people in the community working on the things that they see that we need to improve. So let me just give you some examples from some of the work groups, so you can
sure.
kind
Yeah,
of
that'd be
see
good.
exactly
Sure.
how it is working out. So healthy lifestyles, which, I mean, if you think about it, it's like, oh, well, we have physical activity and we have nutrition, obesity, diabetes. Well, don't those all kind of incorporate healthy lifestyles? And they do, but healthy lifestyles then kind of focuses on what are some other areas that we need to focus on in order for people to have healthy lifestyles. So one of the areas they're working on is mental health. Okay. And with that comes some things like suicide prevention, bully prevention, and just some education in the community. That piece is definitely still kind of in the planning phases, but another key area they were focusing on is increasing dental access to
yeah,
people
that
in
is
the
needed.
county. Yep.
Yeah.
And so what we've done is we actually partnered with the Tri-County Community Dental Clinic, which is up in Appleton, and have worked with the Oshkosh school districts to get the Focus on Children program in there. And they have 2 phases. Phase 1 focuses on exams and fluoride treatment, that they actually go into the schools and the hygienists perform it right there in the schools, so the kids miss class for maybe 20 minutes and then are right back in, so it's not a big kind of disruption of the day.
Sure.
And then there's phase 2 where kids actually go to the dental clinic to get cleanings and cavities and stuff filled like that. So the other thing...
Can I just interrupt for a second, because I don't want to forget my question. Now, is that any kids in the class, or do they have to meet certain income
the
guidelines?
program is for kids that are on the free and reduced lunch program.
Okay.
So that is the kind of the requirement to meet that.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, and so what this group specifically has done is working kind of as a go-between to partner the Tri-County Dental Clinic with the Winnebago school districts and also with the Amro school district to get phase 1 completed in there. And so that's kind of healthy lifestyles. What are we actually doing? How are we working to make the community a better place? So we'll just kind of work our way through the groups.
Sure, yeah.
Healthy recreation opportunities is the big focus of their group right now is actually on developing a county-wide inventory of recreational opportunities. So everything from the parks throughout the county and the city to recreation programs to clubs and organizations, physical activity providers, and rental opportunities, so that people have a kind of one-stop shop. Hey, I'm in Oshkosh, I want to go snowshoeing. Where can I go snowshoeing? Hey, look at that. That's where it is. And the goal is to complete that here in the next month or two, and then to actually make that accessible to people via the Rethink website.
Okay.
The other stuff they're kind of in the works on is working to change the way that zoning and development kind of happen to incorporate more walking, more biking, and making people aware that these activities can be used as transportation. It doesn't just have to be recreation. Mm-hmm. You can ride your bike to work, and you got a little exercise, plus you got yourself to work. Mm-hmm. So that's another big push of that group. Okay. Physical activity, one of their big programs that they kind of pushed early on was the Walk to Win, which is a program that tries to increase the amount of physical activity in workplaces, schools, around the community. And they were actually successful in getting it to increase in Winneconne and Omro schools, which was a big success for the fall. They are in the process of working on the action plan to find ways to increase physical activity kind of across the board in schools, in the community, in workplaces. We got some things in the works developing kind of point of decision prompts, toolkits to get out to the community, signs that you could hang up next to an elevator. So somebody walks up and it says, hey, have you thought of taking the stairs? It's like, oh, well, take the stairs. Maybe just like that, we can change a little bit of the culture and again, increase the amount of physical activity people are doing. So lots there. And then that brings up the nutrition, obesity, diabetes group. And in that group, we are working on a community-wide kind of nutrition resource map to see what is out there in the community right now in terms of everything from the food pantries to meal sites to farmers markets to community-supported agriculture to farm stands to education programs, anything that people would really need, to find out and hopefully increase nutrition in the county. We're also hoping to work with some of the local grocery stores and restaurants to increase the amount of nutritional labeling so that people really know what they're getting and what's good for them and what's not, because I think a lot of people just aren't even aware of that, and so hopefully we can kind of bring attention to that.
Yeah. Festival Foods has started doing something along those lines, haven't they?
Yeah, I think it's the New Val program is the name of it.
That sounds familiar.
They assign a number between, I think it's 1 and 100, depending on the nutritional value of whatever it is. I mean, I think an example would be like Crisco may get like a 2, and then you go to the fruits and vegetable aisle, and there's a lot of fruits and vegetables that are in the 90 to 100 range because they, contain all the nutrients and stuff that you would want to consume. And another big thing that we're going to help out with is we're going to partner with the Oshkosh Farmers Market, because they have been, they're going to be running a pilot program this summer to accept electronic benefits transfer, which means that people can use their food share debit cards at the market. They slide their card, get tokens, and then they can use the tokens to buy produce from the vendors. So a way of increasing the access for people that normally wouldn't easily have access to nutrition-rich food.
So that's for lack of a better word, that's basically the food stamp program.
The food stamp program became the food share program.
Okay.
And they've gone away from the traditional paper stamp to a debit style
like
card.
Everybody.
Exactly. And it's nice because it makes it easy and it takes away a little of the stigma, because you can swipe it, and so it could be a debit card, it could be a credit card, who knows? So people don't have to stand there and feel anything because they're using food stamps.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you by chance? This is just kind of an aside note, but since we're talking about sustainability and wholesome food and natural type things, are you guys working at all with the backyard chicken group that wants chickens to be able to be raised in the city of Oshkosh?
We are not.
Okay.
We,
all right. Just curious.
Yeah, I've heard about that, and I've been a few places, and it's kind of the trend now is people getting chickens in their backyard.
Sustainable stuff.
Exactly.
So
fresh eggs.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So, initially this started out with, a set number of people in the community and throughout the county that were working with you all. And I know that these core work groups probably have expanded a little bit. I know when Jeff was on, he said that anybody really who wanted to get involved could.
Yep.
And I don't know if more people have, as this has kind of become more well-known and talked about, if more people have stepped up and said, I'd like to get involved. Do you have any sense right now, Matt, of how big these work groups really are?
Wow.
Or how many people have stepped up from
Yeah.
the community, and not even, leaders in the community, just citizens?
It's pretty impressive. They're anywhere from, meeting size of 8 to 10 people to 16 to 20. So it really depends on the day and
the weather.
And yep,
this
exactly.
Time of year, yeah.
And we have had people kind of coming and adding as we go along. And that's the goal, is to kind of outreach to the community, because it is the community health improvement plan. So we want as many community members as possible to be involved. People from all walks of life, people from all different jobs, because we want to improve the health of the community. So we want input from everybody.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it still is open to anyone that would like to come.
Who would they contact to, find out more information, or find out, what groups they could be a participant in and how they get involved?
Great question. The Winnebago County Health Department is kind of over this, spearheading everything with the Oshkosh Health and Services Division. So the best contact would be just to contact the Winnebago County Health Department.
Okay.
And the number there is 232-3000.
232-3000.
Yep, and you'll
Okay.
just get the general health department desk, and you can just say, hey, I'm interested in CHIP. Can you connect me with who I need to be
Sure.
connected with?
And of
So,
course, people can always find out more information by going to the county's website too.
Yep.
And the last time I looked, there was a whole slew of information on there about CHIP.
Yep.
And I think probably even how to get involved as well. So.
Yep, and the Winnebago County Health Department website it's the www.co.winnebago.wi.us, that long one.
It's a long
But then
one.
it's /health.
Yeah.
And that will take you right to the health department.
Yeah, and if you didn't catch that, or you can't remember it, or it's too long to write down, or whatever, you can always just simply do a Google search and just say Winnebago County, but make sure you say Winnebago, Wisconsin, because there is a Winnebago County in Illinois.
And
you might end up getting directed there. So make sure you do a search of Winnebago County, Wisconsin, and that'll bring you right to a link that it's probably the first one that takes you right to the county's website, and from there, you can look around. There's a lot of cool stuff on the website, not just about chips.
Yep, lots of good information about the health department and the services that we provide.
Sure.
Because it's sanitary and stuff. It's inspections, it's immunizations, and some long-term planning. But now we kind of stepped into this other realm too, to kind of oversee this entire community health improvement plan and,
Sure.
and take on things from a different side, and hopefully prevent some of the disease and the longer term issues by doing this stuff.
Yeah, I want to talk about, because since Jeff was on, this has kind of changed a little bit. Now Rethink has taken it over, and they're sort of leading the charge here, and you're with AmeriCorps, and so now we've got Rethink and we've got AmeriCorps. So let's talk about AmeriCorps first of all.
Okay.
Are you a volunteer with AmeriCorps, or are you a paid staff person for them?
So In terms of it, you're called an AmeriCorps member and you serve.
Okay.
We do get a stipend,
Okay.
A small living stipend.
Nothing that you're going to retire on.
Nothing that I'm going to retire, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And so how did AmeriCorps come to get involved? And then we'll talk about why Rethink has sort of taken over.
Yeah, so AmeriCorps then has the state Wisconsin AmeriCorps program. Kind of each of the states have their own. And the Wisconsin Primary Healthcare Association and the Wisconsin Public Health Association came together and started a new program called the Health Corps, which is a kind of a subsection of AmeriCorps. And this is the first year of it, so we're new to it. And what it is they've partnered with public health departments and community health centers to place AmeriCorps members and to hopefully increase the access to health care, increase the amount of health education, and increase kind of volunteer and activities in the communities regarding health.
Okay.
And so they got that together and then approached some of the different health departments and community health centers across the state and asked for people that were interested to apply. And so that was how Winnebago County kind of applied for it and then came in with the idea of overseeing the CHIP and the kind of integration into Rethink. So that was where I was brought in, and I started in the beginning of November.
Okay.
So.
All right. So probably shortly after, well, not right after, but probably within about 3 months or so after Jeff was here
Yep.
is when this transition sort of took place. And Rethink, I think primarily, they used to be the Tobacco and Drug Coalition in the county, and then they changed their name. I think that also recently happened during 2010, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe even in late 2009, but
Yep.
it's not been that long ago that they changed from, the coalition name to Rethink. And so they've got a lot of things under their umbrella right now.
Yep.
How large of an organization is Rethink?
Well, so Rethink, it was December of 2009 when they were renamed Rethink.
I was right about,
Yep, you were
I was right on the money
So
there.
it's just over
Pretty
a year
close.
now of them being Rethink.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, they still are they do tobacco, drug, alcohol prevention issues. And they have now brought CHIP into it. And so what it's done is created a large, healthy living coalition. So a large group of community partners, all focused on kind of different areas of healthy lifestyle choices in Winnebago County. And I think it's really important for people to know that. So Rethink got bigger, but it's not losing the focus of anything that it did before. It's still going just as strong as it was in tobacco, alcohol, and drug issues. Now we've just added a lot more community resources.
Okay.
And so since Rethink was already an existing coalition, they had a lot of resources and community support in place. And so what happens is by bringing CHIP in, CHIP now has access to a lot of the resources that are there, and will just allow more things to happen and connect and make a bigger healthy living coalition in the county.
But we still should make the point that the Winnebago County Health Department still oversees this, and just because Rethink is sort of leading the charge, it is still overseen by, and I would assume the county health department makes final decisions. They have the final thumbs up or thumbs down on something with regard to this, or you don't know for sure.
I
right?
don't know for
Okay.
sure.
And that's fair.
Yeah, but I know a lot of the decision making and a lot of the stuff now is turned over to these work groups, is turned over to these committees, because we don't want it to be a community, a health department strictly driven thing. We want it to be community driven. We want it to be run by the people that it is focused on improving the health of. So yeah, the coordinator roles are still filled kind of from the health department, but the chairs of the committees The makeup of the leadership committee is all from community members that are involved in each of the committees.
Okay.
So
Now, funding, you know, obviously, as we've been mentioning, this is overseen ultimately by the county health department. They have a budget that, you know, is voted on and approved by the county board. But, you know, there's never enough money really to do everything that you need to do, whether it's, you know, the health department, the sheriff's department, whatever it is. Do you get funding from any other sources, Matt?
There is grants and
Okay.
other community things like that. I don't know a lot of the details of that.
All right,
So
but
I
there is
can't
money
honestly,
coming
there
in
is
from
there is
elsewhere.
grants, and you know, some of the work is just put in by volunteers in the community that want to see Winnebago County a better place. So
Now, I know that when Jeff was on, we talked about how this idea first started and that it was, you know, kind of patterned after some things from other counties, and I think you may have mentioned that earlier on. You know, so even though you've got this plan and you've got a lot of things from other communities, you know, health is always changing, things are always changing. You've got a basic working document, but it's never a static document, is it? It's always
no.
going to be changing a little bit here and there. It's always going to need some tweaking and,
Yep.
and so forth, right?
And that's, you know, that's one of the things we're working with right now with developing these action plans, is just being like, you know what, this is just kind of a blueprint, and the blueprint will constantly be changing. We'll complete stuff, we'll realize, you know what, this is not the time to be working on this. And so, yeah, it's always a work in progress. So things
Sure.
are always kind of changing and melding as we go.
Sure. I want to give that phone number again to contact the county health department. It's 920-232-3000, and or you can access their website to find out additional information also. Other than people working on these work groups and so forth, are there other needs for volunteers, or are there other needs? Certainly, you're not going to turn down money if someone wants to donate some money to the cause, but do you have other needs?
Yeah, and it's, you know, so we have the work committees, and then we also have, there's kind of 3 support committees that function out of Rethink, and that's a sustainability committee, a media committee, and an advocacy committee. And you know, we're always looking for people that are willing to help out. And with the media committee, you know, there's a few things going on. Rethink is going to be having its own TV show.
Really? Okay.
Yep. And I don't know the details on that, but I just know that that is something that is in the works.
Well, I'll have to ask Emily about that next time she's on. So.
Yeah. And then, yeah, just some things like that. And so we're always looking for community help in whatever way people want to get involved. And so you get in touch with us and see if there's a way that something you offer can help out the coalition, because I'm sure it can.
Okay.
So
We've got about 30 seconds left. Do you want to throw any final thought out there for folks?
yeah, besides those 2 websites, Rethink has its own website now, and
Okay.
that's rethinkwinnebago.org.
Okay.
And that's a place to kind of check out what Rethink is up to, and we're working in the process of updating it so people really know where we're at and what we're about. And yeah, you know, I just have really enjoyed my experience so far at the Winnebago County Health Department, and really think that the health department does a good job of making sure that this community is a better place.
Okay, excellent. Thanks so much for being here. You did a great job.
Thank you,
I know
Cheryl.
you were worried about your TV debut, and you were perfect.
Awesome.
So
Thank you
you
very
so
much.
much. We're going to take a real short break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Steve Vickman from the Oshkosh Area Community Food Pantry. So we'll be right back.
Every year, the U.S. Department of the Treasury receives about 1.4 million reports of problems with paper checks. Checks can be lost, stolen, or delayed. If you still receive Social Security payments by paper check, Treasury wants you to know about a safer, more convenient way to get your money. the Direct Express Prepaid Debit MasterCard. The Direct Express card is new and is available to anyone receiving Social Security benefits, even if you don't have a bank account. Your monthly benefits will be automatically placed onto your card account each month on the day your money is due. While other debit cards cost money, it is possible to use the Direct Express card for free to make purchases, pay bills, and get cash at thousands of locations nationwide. There are no sign-up or monthly account fees. No more waiting for the mail or worrying about lost or stolen checks. Call 1-877-212-9991 or visit www.usdirectexpress.com.
All right, welcome back to the second half of Eye on Oshkosh. And as I mentioned before the break, Steve Vickman is here now. He's the Executive Director of the Oshkosh Area Community Food Pantry. And I'm surprised I could say that without looking at my notes. You know, that's one that I always have to look at because I think I'm going to miss a word somewhere around there. But I did it. So anyway, welcome. Nice to have you back. You've been on a few times.
Appreciate it.
Since the food pantry has sort of merged with a bunch of others. And wanted to have you on because, you know, your 2-year anniversary is coming up. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly when, but it's coming up pretty quickly, isn't it?
I could tell you April 19th, 2009.
Okay, so 2 months from now it's coming up.
Yeah.
So how have things been going so far?
Well, I can tell you that I think when we opened up, none of us had any idea that it would take off and blossom and become what it has become at this point. So, you know, we're incredibly grateful to the community for all the support they've given us, and we've really been awed by that support and by the generosity we've seen, and really humbled by the need that we've seen in the community as well. You know, when we opened up in April, we served 755 people and households, and we kind of patted ourselves on the back and said, great job. But last month we served 2,139 families.
Wow.
And, you know, it's just incredible the need that's out there with, you know, the economy, because for a lot of the folks at the bottom of the economic ladder, things really haven't improved much, you know.
Well, and you know, I was going to talk to you about that a little bit further on in our conversation, but as long as we're there now, we might as well talk about it. You know, that increase in numbers, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
You know, and in not even a full 2-year cycle. And on one of our most recent shows, Joe Janess from Father Carr's Place to Be was on, and he said their numbers of people that they're serving has also taken a huge increase. You know, they're dealing with some of the same folks, I'm sure, but they're dealing with a bigger issue, if you will, because a lot of their people are homeless that they're serving, and yours have homes, presumably, but
Not all.
not all, but a lot of them do, and you know, and they need help with basic food needs and other basic type hygiene needs and so forth. Do you attribute this increase, Steve, to you know, the economy the way it's been going, or is there something else going on that, you know, is it people being aware that you're there, or a combination of everything?
When I look at who it is exactly that we're serving, you know, the largest single group are actually people who are employed. I mean, but it's folks who are working in service type industries, which, you know, for the minimum wage jobs, for even $10 an hour, you can't feed a family of 4 in Winnebago County. You know, the poverty line for a family of 4 in Winnebago County is a little over $22,000 right now, set by the federal government. So those types of jobs just are not providing the income that's needed to really take care of the basic necessities of life. You know, the next largest group we see are both seniors, retired folks on Social Security on fixed incomes, and then folks who are on SSI, who are on disability. So, you know, the typical idea that people have of, quote, the poor I think is very incorrect, because the poor are actually the people who are living right next door to you and I, and there, but for the grace of God, one accident, one illness away, it could be you or I in the same boat. So it's a very interesting mix of folks who are seeing our need to come into the pantry and use our services right now, though.
And then, of course, there's a whole segment of our population that I bet you don't see, Father Carr's Place to Be doesn't see. Joe's not maybe seeing people over there. They're maybe too proud, or maybe they have family or friends that they can stay with. So there really are a lot more folks who have needs that none of you folks may be seeing.
Yeah, and I just think about in some of our surveys, I think of one family that we talked to, and the couple in their 50s. He had a great job for a long time, and he worked in a factory, made pretty good money, and then he had, like you, knee replacement surgery, and it didn't work out for him. He tried to go back to work, and in the end, he wound up having to go on disability, lost his job, he wound up losing all of his insurance and stuff, and folks are still very proud, and they don't want to have to say, hey, I need some help. But that's really what we are there for. We're really there to help people bridge the gap. We're not there to take care of all their needs, but we're there to help them get over the hump. And I think after a couple months, this gentleman's wife finally talked him into saying, hey, we need to go there because they can help us out. And they're very grateful, and really surprised by what they find at the pantry.
Sure.
And, as much as I'm proud of all the people that we helped, I'm even more proud of how we help them, that we treat people with dignity. Typically when people come into the food pantry, it's a very humbling experience. And I got a call today from a social worker thanking us because apparently she had brought somebody in the pantry unbeknownst to me yesterday, and said, hey, she had a great experience there. The people there were very kind to her, and I'm more proud of that, I think, than anything else, of how our volunteers treat other folks who come into the pantry.
Sure.
So
now you scared me a little bit. This is off the subject, but you scared me saying his knee surgery didn't work out. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff, Steve. And I don't think Dan does either, because he just had his knee replaced too. So it's kind of funny that we both had our knees replaced around the same time here, but a few weeks apart anyway. But maybe his situation didn't work out for some other reason.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Dan's and mine will work out fine, and that we can
I hope
continue
so
doing
too,
our
Cheryl.
things, and we don't have to come see you. So let's talk about how this has sort of mushroomed, if you will, since the 2 years. You said you're kind of overwhelmed too to see how it has really grown. Now, refresh our memory. This community-wide food pantry took over for 7 other food pantries,
well,
right?
There was originally Ecumenical Food Pantry, which was a combination of 7 churches, and then several other pantries joined with us in 2009 to form, the Oshkosh Area Community Pantry. And really, it was because there was a realization that resources were not being used wisely. In the old days, you came into the food pantry and you got a bag of stuff, and whether you wanted baked beans or not, by golly, you were getting baked beans. And we know that was not the best use of resources. And what we do, we actually have like a shopping format, and it's based on points. And so you can come in and hopefully pick out good nutritious choices, but you can pick out the things that you really want for your family and that you're going to need. And we just see that as just a much more dignified approach to getting stuff and for dealing with people. But the reason why I think we've had such great success is because we've had so many people who've wanted to collaborate and partner with us. Everybody from the Rotarians with the Shared Harvest Program, where they rescue produce from the farmers markets, to the VITA program, where we're doing low-income people's tax returns at our site. We'll do over 300 returns this year, and that's a group with United Way, UWO, UW Extension, where we're having preparers prepare their folks' returns online. Last year we did over 300, saved people over $156,000. So for people who don't have any money in the bank, getting $500 is a big deal. So it's those kind of things that people have really wanted to open up and be a partner with us in so many different ways that we've been able to be successful, because without so many different organizations and groups wanting to be a part of what we are, we could not have the success we have.
Sure. You mentioned something I wanted to touch on, that someone is rescuing food from the farmers markets.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, is it food that they have put out for sale at the farmers markets and for whatever reason it didn't sell?
Yeah, and typically what would happen is it's not going to keep till the next farmer's market several days away or wherever, they typically go to different towns or different locations. And so rather than, they would normally throw this stuff out. So Ken Friedman with the Rotary had the bright idea a couple years ago, why not ask if they'd like to donate it? And it's just been tremendous. I think last year, between local gardeners and the Rotary, we had over 35,000 pounds of fresh produce donated to us, and that's tremendous at no cost, might I add.
Well, where do you guys get your funding from to do what you do?
Well, we continue to get some from our original roots, which was with the churches. Many individuals in the community support us. A large piece of it, though, comes from the various foundations. For instance, the John E. Kenzel Foundation, they've funded us to a tremendous amount all 3 years we've been in operation now. They wrote us a check for $125,000 this year, which is a third of our entire budget. So that's huge. J.J. Keller, Bemis Foundation, Oshkosh Truck, and Eileen Connolly Kiesler and the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation have been tremendous partners with us as well, and helped us in many, many ways. And we are also a partner with the Oshkosh United Way as well. We're a member agency.
And when you say you're a partner with them, are you getting funding from them?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
Yes.
How does that application process for the United Way work? Because I don't know that many people, and it's probably just I'm not talking to the right people, but I don't know how the process works. And Dan and I have talked about that before. So how does that process work?
Yeah, it's, well, first of all, you have to be accepted as a United Way agency, which we were 2 years ago, but then they have a whole allocations process. They have different committees, and we have a very large application that I'm currently working on, and I have to submit by Monday, but we...
and yet you're taking time out to talk to me.
But it's, gladly, but it's... really, they want to see outcomes, what difference are we making in the community? And so being a United Way agency is very important to us, because it really is a certification that what we do, we have somebody else looking over our shoulder and making sure that we are really impacting the community in a big way. So for us, being a United Way agency is a huge thing. So.
Okay. All right. And grants and so forth, I'm sure you're getting funds from those types of entities also.
Right. And we spend quite a bit of money just on things like dairy, milk. Our cost on that has gone up over 30% since we started, and so that's a huge expense for us. But we're also a partner with Feeding America, the National Food Bank. They have a branch out in Amer. We are Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin's largest partner right now, and it's amazing what we can buy for 14 cents a pound on average.
Sure.
It's unbelievable, because what happens is they're able to rescue food that normally some retailers would have just taken and tossed in the dumpster. Once it gets, meat, once it gets to the sell-by date, there's really nothing wrong with it if you flash freeze it, and then you can still distribute it. So for pennies on a dollar, we get some very nice deals for Feeding America.
Sure.
And we're really able to impact the community in a big way there.
Sure. One thing I think we should probably touch on, Steve, is you share your building with someone. And I don't think that a lot of folks really understand what the shared process is or why it's being shared, but St. Vincent de Paul is in there with you, and they have been from the beginning of when you opened up on Jackson Drive. Are you partnering with them in any shape, form, or fashion, or is it just simply sharing a roof?
I
And
hope,
common walls.
I hope that it's more than just sharing a roof. I think it's really a good partnership because St. Vincent de Paul does many, many charitable works in the community. Everything that they get from the sales of product, secondhand goods in their store, they reinvest in the community through various charitable givings. And so, I mean, they help folks out in a big way. And so we think it's a natural thing for us to be in the same building with St. Vinny's. Folks can come in and do their pantry shopping, and then if they need items, clothing or whatever, furniture, they can go over to the St. Vincent de Paul side. And St. Vincent de Paul, freely gives to people in need. They make grants to people who have nothing and who are destitute. So we think it's a good partnership for us to be in the building. They are my landlord, so I have to talk nice about them too. But.
It's always good to butter up the landlord, I'll tell you. So when you're looking at, and here's a question from Dan, because when I said, well, are there any questions that you want me to ask Steve? He said, yes, I have a few. One in particular had to do with, he said that, and I don't know if he was talking to someone from St. Vinny's or what, but he said that they are continuing to get calls for people who need clothing. And I don't know if that's just something that with this time of year or what it is, but, have you heard that? And other than St. Vincent de Paul and Goodwill, do you know, are there other places in the community where people can get low cost or no cost, if they really don't have funds, clothing?
Yeah, they can get vouchers a lot of times, like through Salvation Army, grants, vouchers, and Red Cross also. But there are a few thrift stores in the area besides Goodwill and St. Vincent de Paul. But they are the two major thrift stores, for secondhand, reused items. So.
Have you heard that though about extra calls coming in right now for clothing needs?
Not really familiar with it. No.
All right.
No.
And I want to go back too, because we touched a little bit on homelessness earlier. Do you have any sense, because it's kind of a tough thing to get your arms around, as far as an actual number of how many homeless people we have in our community. Do you have any sense, Steve, of how many people we're talking about here?
I know that the school district probably compiles the best statistics with that of anybody, because they do have to track that, and so you probably would need to speak to my better half about that.
Okay.
But when you're talking about homelessness, we're seeing a lot of times different household units moving in with somebody else when they are evicted from their apartment or they lose their home. So, when you're talking about homelessness, a lot of times it is invisible. It's not like we're seeing people underneath the bridge here in Oshkosh, but it's folks who are not maintaining their own residence anymore, and maybe they're moving back in with mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or with friends and relatives, because that's what we see a lot with the folks that we serve, is that they do help each other a lot. So there is a lot of that where they do move back in with mom and dad or whoever, because they have lost their home. So I don't think we're seeing a lot of folks living in cars, but I think it's where they're not able to maintain their own residence anymore. And so.
Well, and we might be seeing some people who are leaving the area when it starts getting cold too, and then coming back when the weather starts warming up.
Yeah, and we have this, right now we have the homeless shelter, which hopefully will get launched real soon.
The warming shelter?
The warming shelter, yes. Yep. And so I think that will take care of a huge need that's in the area that we see and we're aware of, and we're certainly supportive of that effort, for sure.
Sure. I want to play devil's advocate for a minute.
Not you, Cheryl.
Hard to imagine, right? When we see a lot of times in the for-profit world, we see big companies coming along and gobbling up little companies, and they become bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the complaint you start hearing is they have lousy customer service. Their people are no longer considered customers with, an identity. They're just sort of a number. Now here you've kind of combined, you've taken on these ecumenical, pantries from different churches and so forth. And we should also point out there are still a few out there who didn't want to join and they wanted to remain on their own. I would think that that danger is still kind of there, but knowing you the little bit that I do, and having you on as we have a few times in the past, I think you and your staff and your volunteers probably strive real hard to still maintain some kind of personal relationship and not, treat people, as you said before, with dignity and respect rather than just sort of, a revolving door, getting them through the system and so forth. Can you just talk about, how the size of this affects people who have a need to come to you?
Yeah, I think that first of all, there's definitely economies of scale that we can manage in a very positive way because we are bigger. Not that we don't have frenetic moments in the pantries, especially first of the month, and when we have, sometimes we do have large lines there, and which is unfortunate, but we manage it the best we can, and we try to get folks through. But I think it starts at the top. First of all, we don't call them clients, we don't call them customers, they are our guests. Okay. And we have to learn to accept all of our guests at wherever they're at. For instance, we've tried to slot people in alphabetically. If you're A through E, you come in the 1st through the 7th of the month. If you're F through K, you come in the 8th through the 15th, and so on. But we know that sometimes people rely on other people for rides into the, to get to the pantry or transportation, or they just can't get there for one reason or another. So we make exceptions for everybody every day of the month. So we know that while we have quote rules, we have to still accept people for where they are at and treat them where they're at. And if we see abuse of it, then we might start to say, okay, what's going on here? But even at that, our role is not to judge people. Our role is to serve people, and that's the thing that I think we try to drive home to all of our volunteers. Yeah, we have our rules and whatever, but still we need to take care of people. One of our rules is you have to have an address and prove that you live in Oshkosh. Okay, we've had people come in and say, I live in the woods north of town. Well, guess what? We need to take care of you. We typically say our service area is Winnebago County, but if we get migrant workers coming in from Texas who can't prove they live here, or if they live in Watoma or they're working out in the Watoma area, we will still take care of them, even though our rules say Winnebago County only, because we need to help people who are in dire straits and who really need our help. And that's the bottom line. And that's the rule that we always have to remember when we're serving people. Sure.
How large of a staff do you have, Steve, and how many volunteers do you have?
I have a tremendous staff of 2.
And that includes you?
Yes, I'm one. I have an operations manager now who runs the pantry. Okay. And we have about 240 volunteers.
Wow.
And of those 240 volunteers, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's 23%, I think it's like 56, are actually pantry guests. Because we ask everybody who comes in, hey, how would you like to be part of this enterprise? Would you like to come and volunteer? And, it's a tremendous feeling when you can give something back to people rather than just be sitting there with your hand out all the time. And so we think that's a tremendous thing, and we see growth in some of the people who volunteer at the pantry and are able to help other people as well. And we just think that's an important part of being a member of the community. Sure. And how we can connect people with what's going on here in the community. And the other thing too is, Cheryl, we're never going to be satisfied with standing still. We have a lot of initiatives going on right now. One of the things that we realize is that there's a lot of people in Wisconsin, and especially here in Oshkosh, who aren't taking full advantage of programs like Food Share, formerly called the food stamp program. And so one of our initiatives this year is going to be to sign people up on site to take advantage of the Food Share program, because only about 49% of the people who are actually eligible are taking advantage of it. And it's got to be a much better experience to shop at Pick and Save or Festival or Piggly Wiggly than it is to come into my food pantry. And so that's going to be a huge part of initiative of what we do this year. We also have a program called Farm to School, which we're hoping to partner with 2 elementary schools here in Oshkosh, Washington, and Webster Stanley. And it's a program really to connect kids with what goes on with on the farm and connect them really to the whole process of growing food and things. And so we're really excited about that partnership that we hope to launch in fall of this year with them as well.
Okay.
So.
With time running short, I want to just talk briefly about a couple of other things, and we've got about 3 minutes left. Number one, what other needs do you have right now that we can tell the community about, and maybe they can pitch in and help out? And then the other thing that you wanted to touch on was some of your outreach that you're doing. So take it away, Steve.
Okay. I guess basically we never say no to anything that people want to give us. We always are in need of cash donations, as well as, people want to have food drives and do that for us as well. I would encourage anybody, if you don't want to come out and volunteer at the pantry, find an organization, find a church, find a nonprofit that you really love and would really like to help out, because the reward that you will receive from giving will outweigh anything that you give. I can tell you that. This is a job that I have to tell you I love, and I think it's something that can save people's lives. And I think it's plays a very important role in our community, the food pantry. So I would just encourage folks to come on out and volunteer. If not at our organization, find someone, pick someone, because you'll feel much better about yourself if you do that. As far as outreach, again, we're doing the VITA program right now. People can call the United Way number to make an appointment now through middle of April to do tax returns. They're also doing them at the senior center as well, but they can call the United Way office and make that appointment. Again, some of the other things, we will be launching again the food share program where we're registering people. We also have a backpack program for kids that we want to do, because we know that kids are going home on the weekends. During the school day, they're getting they're getting fed by the meal program, but for weekends we're concerned that some kids are going home and really not being able to have food on the table. So we're going to initiate a backpack program hopefully this year as well. So just some of the really neat things that I think that we're going to do, and stay very active in the community going forward.
Now, if folks are interested in learning more about any of those programs, they can call the food pantry?
Yeah, they can come on down
And
to
what's the
25.
number?
Okay, they can come on into 2551 Jackson. We'll be happy to give them a tour. Our number is 651-9960.
Okay. All right, so 2551 Jackson here in Oshkosh, or 651-9960. And then the VITA program for the tax preparing assistance, if they contact United Way on that, do they need to reference that this is, because maybe people won't remember VITA program. Do they just say, I heard about a program that the food pantry is sponsoring?
Yeah, they can just say, we'd like to get our taxes completed.
And that's simple
and we
enough,
heard
too.
you're the folks that can make a reservation for us. And I know right now for the next 2 weeks they are booked up, but call right now and you can make an appointment. And it's about 45 minutes is all it takes.
Okay, excellent. Well, very good. Again, the address for the Oshkosh Area Community Food Pantry is 2551 Jackson in Oshkosh. The telephone number is 651-9960. So, thanks so much. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
And congratulations on approaching your 2-year anniversary, and thanks for everything that you're doing for folks in the community who
Thank
need
you.
it. So, that's going to do it for us. We will see you next time. Until then, keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.